If I don't speak about my faith or about my God or about salvation, if I don't speak about these things from a place of love in my heart, if I don't speak with genuine love for the person I'm talking to, I really should keep my mouth shut. I should say nothing at all. If I speak with a vindictive in a vindictive manner with the hope to cause hurt or harm or offense, I should keep my mouth shut. But if my words come from a place of love, even if they do cause a little bit of pain for people, I need to speak them out loud. Now, remember, a lot of people say, well, if it hurts, it can't be right. Jesus would never do that. But I want you to remember, if Jesus only spoke things that made people happy, why did they crucify him? If the apostles that followed him, that went out into the world to spread the gospel, if they only spoke things that would cause people to have joy, why were all of them killed for their faith, except for John, who was cast into prison, exiled on the island of Patmos? Why would this be the case? The words I speak, perhaps they're hurtful, but they come from a place of love. I want people to have the assurance of salvation that I enjoy now. I was recently accused of attacking Joseph Smith. Now, this is nothing new. It came again, but I just felt like, enough. Enough is enough, and I just need to have a video that I can point people to that will answer that question, and so that's what this is. So if my comments about Joseph Smith are vindictive, then I'm wrong. I should shut my mouth. But if I only present source material and all that people can research, that people can examine, that people can decide for themselves, whether he was a prophet of God, whether he was a liar or not, just decide for yourself who he was and if he is worth following. And so today, instead of going after a lot of different topics, different aspects of his life, I'm going to limit my examination only to the single topic of polygamy. So I would start by saying, have you read the stories, the journals, or the testimonies of Fanny Alger, Lucinda Pendleton, Louisa Beeman, Zina Huntington, Percinda Huntington, Agnes Coolbreath, Patty Bartlett Sessions, Mary Elizabeth Rollins, Miranda Nancy Hyde, Elizabeth Davis, Sarah Kingsley, Delencia Johnson, Eliza Snow, Sarah Ann Whitney, Martha McBride, Ruth Voss, Flora Woodworth, Emily Partridge, Eliza Partridge, Lucy Walker, Sarah Lawrence, Maria Lawrence, Helen Mar Kimball, Helen Ellis, Rhonda Richards, Desmonia Fuller, Olive Frost, Melissa Lott, Nancy Winchester, and Fanny Young. Have you read their stories and examined them? Now, a lot of you would say, I don't want to read that anti-Mormon stuff, but for me at least, the source of these stories, these testimonies, these journals came from a book called In Sacred Loneliness, The Plural Wives of Joseph Smith. This book was written by Todd Compton. Todd is a member in good standing. He's an LDS historian. And so there's no reason to believe that he had some type of an agenda where he wanted to hurt the Mormon church. He has no reason to speak anything but the truth. And so again, In Sacred Loneliness, The Plural Wives of Joseph Smith. It's a great book, I think. Now, as you read through these stories, or if you do decide to do this, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Joseph Smith and the church that now exists claim that the restoration of polygamy was actually the restoration of Old Testament polygamy. What God allowed in the past, God is allowing or allowed during the life of Joseph Smith. Is that true, or did they do something different? Before you say that it is a restoration of Old Testament polygamy, I would ask you, have you read about the prohibition on marrying a woman and her sister? Because Joseph Smith did that several times. Have you read the prohibition on marrying a woman and her daughter? Joseph Smith did that too. So restoration, I don't know about that one. Have you read the stories, the testimonies, the official documents, the sworn documents of those that got away. Joseph Smith's proposals for plural marriage were reportedly rejected by at least 7 women. These include Sarah Granger Kimball, Cordelia C. Morley, Esther M. Johnson, Lydia Moon, Rachel Ivins, Nancy Rigdon, and Sarah Pratt. These are all documented stories. There's also others that can't be documented. But I want to take a minute and look at one other woman who got away. Her name was Martha Brotherton. Now, here's a little timeline of her life. She was born in 1824 in England. In 1840, her and her family were introduced to the Mormon church by the Apostle Brigham Young. And in 1841, they immigrated to the United States, arriving in Nauvoo, Illinois, sometime late in the year. November is what we believe. In early 1842, so just a few months after they arrived, she was visited by Brigham Young, Heber Kimball, and Joseph Smith, who pressured her to become Young's plural wife. He already had several. He wanted another one. And according to her story, she said that this pressure came in an upstairs office at the Nauvoo store behind a locked door, that she was kind of in a place where she couldn't just go and run or walk away. She was locked in with these men, sometimes several of them, sometimes just one, but she was there for a long time and the pressure kept coming, according to her. In July of 1842, she wrote and signed an affidavit in St. Louis detailing the coercion by Kimball, Young, and Joseph Smith. In 1842, that same year, she fled Nauvoo, and apparently there were some threats. In 1842, again, her statement was published in the Sangamo Journal. Now, it was also published in the American Bulletin, the Warsaw Signal, the Louisville Journal, the New York Herald, Alton Telegraph, Quincy Whig, and by John C. Bennett. Now, John C. Bennett was kind of a scoundrel. He was a pig. So even if we throw that out, it was still published in 7 newspapers. In 1843, Martha married a man by the name of James Purnell in Illinois. They had 5 children, raised 5 children. In 1861, at some point she'd returned to England. She died in 1861. And here's the thing that is crazy. Can I prove her story? I can't. Could it all be a lie? It could be. But there is, I believe, a smoking gun. And it is also possible, I suppose, that some of the statements I saw that came out of the Mormon church are also true. I've seen her discredited. I've seen her referred to as immoral, as a prostitute, as a whore, as a hussy. Horrible, horrible words to say about this woman who was just 17 years old when all of this happened to her. But here's my question to you. If the story was manufactured by Martha, if she just made it up, what would that mean? If she was really an immoral whore, a prostitute, a hussy, if all those things were true, and if Brigham Young never pressured her to be his polygamous wife, I have to ask why this next event occurred. Remember, she died in 1861. 9 years later, 1870, Brigham Young posthumously had her sealed to himself. So even though she got away in this life, according to Mormonism, he got her back for the eternities. She's the girl that almost got away. But my question is, if she is everything that the Mormon church said she was, why would Brigham Young want her? And here's an interesting fact as well. When she left the church, her entire family went with her, except for one sister, Elizabeth Brotherton Pratt. That's right, her sister, Elizabeth Brotherton Pratt, the wife of polygamist Harley P. Pratt, an apostle. And she was the woman who stood in as proxy for Martha, her sister, to have her sealed to Brigham Young. So she actually became complicit in that act. Now, one last point regarding polygamy. May 26, 1844, just 1 month before Joseph Smith was killed, he was speaking and he said, "What a thing it is for a man to be accused of committing adultery and having 7 wives when I can find only one." Now, we've already gone through the list of his wives, and more importantly, the church on their website say that he had somewhere between 33 and 40 wives. So it's clear that he had many wives, and yet here, 1 month before his death, he's saying, what a thing it is to be accused of adultery and having 7 wives when I can only find one. This is found in the History of the Church. It's an official Mormon doctrine. History of the Church, page 411. Now, he said these words in a speech known as a testimony against dissenters in Nauvoo. This was a public denial of polygamy and adultery. These charges were leveled by critics of the church, including the Nauvoo Expositor, the newspaper which he had burned down, and former associates like William Law. 1 month later, June 27, 1844, Joseph Smith was killed. He went to his death after saying something that even the current church says was not true. So is this an attack? No, it's not. No, it's not. These are the records relating to polygamy. These are the official records. You can examine them. They're all cited. You can decide for yourself whether he was a man you want to follow or a man that you would rather avoid. I don't present this to harm anyone. I don't present this to hurt anyone. I present this simply as a way for you to have the information you need to examine Joseph Smith and decide for yourselves. Now, one last point. If we are to examine the Book of Mormon and choose to trust it, it would make good sense first to examine the man who wrote it. We learn in Matthew 7 that false prophets come and we will know them by their fruits. Here's my suggestion to you. My suggestion is to simply examine these things and let the knowledge you come to know about Joseph Smith influence the way you believe about his works, the fruits of his hands. I hope you will do that. I hope you'll know that this message was delivered in love. I hope you'll know that there was no desire to hurt or harm, simply to lead people to the truth, because Jesus said the truth will make you